All right, we're going to begin recording here. We're going to go live there. And now we are live. And while we're getting ready, we always got to wait for the stream to fire up a little bit. We're just going to get just a couple quick news updates today. There are some things happening in immigration law, in the United States of America. And because it's important, we're going to mention it here. Now, we're going to do this announcement here in English. So I hope everybody watching is able to appreciate it. I know we do have a lot of the bilingual viewers. And so we're going to wait just a couple seconds till this algorithm gets humming. I know there's people out there scrolling on their phones, checking out the information available here on TikTok and on other social media outlets. So we are going to be getting started very soon. All right, user 7177777. Welcome. You've been invited. All right, let's keep going here. I just want to get a couple news items ready to go. And it's a little bit surprising because there's a few things that's happening with immigration law right now. And there's obviously a lot of people who are applying for immigration benefits. And there's also people applying for jobs working for the U.S. government because, well, let's face it. If you're working for the government in respect to immigration, you would think that that's probably going to be one of the easiest jobs, at least for the next 3 or 4 more years. And that's just because the Trump administration has become very exuberated about immigration enforcement. All right, Betsaida, welcome. Bienvenido. Welcome to join and ask a question if you like. We were planning on doing this session in English. We are talking about immigration, and one of the new trends that we see happening throughout the country. Of course, this is me. This is my law firm, Betzold Law, visafeliz.com. Over 15 years of experience helping unite families through immigration. But there are a few news items. Let's hop on over to news. Let's head over to the news and let's see what's going on with immigration judges. And I guarantee you, there we go. NPR is reporting it. Hartford's reporting it. Yeah, I saw the article about this guy, and I am aware, just personally from my own social media networks, of a number of other immigration judges who just lost their job. Okay, and these were not particularly, they weren't particularly favorable to immigrants because the law is the law, and the law is pretty tough on them. I would say that it looks like they have connections to the immigration lawyer community. Maybe they came from the immigration lawyer community. Many have. Many immigration attorneys will at some point apply for the federal judgeship. It's an administrative judgeship. But, it gives a breadth of experience, get to do immigration work sort of on the other side of the table. So there are immigration attorneys who will take a job as an immigration judge. Well, I know for sure that some of them had connections to the immigration lawyer community. Nothing inappropriate, but they had come from the community. And so then when they got their firing notice, of course, then they can go to social media and say, hey, what the heck's going on? Because I just got fired and I don't have a high approval rate. Like, I'm not out there breaking the law. I'm not getting overturned. I'm not getting complained about by other attorneys or ICE attorneys or private immigration attorneys. And so it's kind of mysterious, right? So there's a lot of immigration judges right now. And I think last count, there were only a few hundred of them left in the country. But a lot of them are getting the pink slip, right? They're getting kicked out, they're losing their job. And we can speculate because there's a few things that we do know about the Trump administration and their plans for immigration enforcement. Now, we know that they want to bring in a bunch of military, they call them JAG officers, Judge Advocate General. These are attorneys who work in the military, in military courts, right? So in the U.S. Armed Forces, there's what's called the Uniform Code of Military Justice, the UCMJ, and it is a whole different legal code. It's separate and apart from civil code, federal criminal code, state law. It's essentially the rules that they have to follow, the administrative rules that need to get followed when a military member, an enlisted person or an officer, violates a law or rule, and it could be a rule of the military, it could be a criminal or civil law. But as a military member, in certain circumstances, they can be tried by a military tribunal, and they run, the military runs those, right? And they're run by other members of the military JAG officer, military judges. And the Trump administration said, well, we should just take a bunch of the military judges or military lawyers and assign them to the U.S. Department of Justice to work there as immigration judges. And we don't care if they don't have a whole lot of information or knowledge or experience on being an immigration judge. Now, that's pretty awful, and it's awful for a few reasons. First of all, immigration law is incredibly complex, okay? Let's just compare it to your district court down the road that'll hand out traffic tickets, driving on a suspended license, DUIs, maybe a misdemeanor assault, a domestic violence assault, something that's a misdemeanor or even a felony, right? Well, that's fine. You have the state statute that essentially says these are the elements. That's what has to be proved. If it's proved that person is guilty, here's the procedures to follow in the court itself. Okay? You have that. Well, imagine that, but in immigration court, instead of saying, well, someone's going to get a ticket or they'll get a fine or they'll go to jail for 90 days, or in the case of a felony, right, in excess of a year, instead of just that, we also have to analyze, when did they come into the United States? What set of did this immigration set of laws apply to this person's case, or do they meet one of the many exceptions? If it does apply to their case and they meet an exception, is there a waiver? If it doesn't apply to their case, there isn't an exception, is there some other form of immigration immigration relief that's available to them? So it's not just a simple matter of saying, all right, let's just read the code and we'll be good. No, the immigration code is like thousands of pages long. Oh, it zoomed in on me. Let's do that again. All right, it's thousands of pages long. It's filled with many exemptions, and it depends, right? For example, if you go out and you're driving without a license today, you'll go to court, police stop you, they'll give you a ticket, you go to court, the judge is going to say, on this day, were you driving without a license? And then you can plead guilty or not guilty, right? And bring your proofs, and the police would have to prove it. But all they got to prove in our normal district criminal court is, yeah, the law says this, they did that, they are guilty, give them their $50 fine or $100 fine or $400, whatever it is. Again, in immigration court, it's not that simple. It's, well, do they have any U.S. family members? How old are they? Is their name on the birth certificate? Is like this a real thing? Or is there documentation of it? Did anybody file a petition for them before? Did an employer ever file a petition for them before? When they entered the U.S., did they have this status, or one of the thousands of other status that exist out there that could entitle them to some form of relief? So the idea that you're going to take a bunch of military judges or military prosecutors and turn them into immigration judges in a couple weeks, it's buffoonery. It's flat, ridiculous buffoonery with jam. Okay? So there's no way that that's going to turn out well. Now, at the same time, does the administration care if it turns out well? No, I'm sure they don't care. I'm sure they would just, part of the job is they want to just create as much chaos as possible, right? However, there's something like still over 1 million pending immigration court cases that are clogging up the immigration courts in the United States. They're not opening more immigration courts, or not. If they opened any this year, I would be surprised. Instead of hiring more judges, they're firing them, the ones who know how things work, so they can actually, the judge can play a pretty large role, right? There's something called pre-terminating a case. That's essentially dismissing it before it gets too far along in the process. And so what a judge can say is, for example, in the case of an asylum case, well, what's your grounds for asylum? And if their grounds is a particular social group, the judge will say, well, what's your particular social group? And they say, well, the gangs threaten me. A judge who knows what they're doing can say, well, that's not a particular social group that's going to work. So I'm just going to end your case right now, and case is over, and then ICE can remove you, right? So that's a possibility. So bringing in a bunch of judges who are not going to know what are the legitimate particular social groups, what are not, what are the legitimate grounds that count for political persecution or religious persecution in an asylum context, it's going to be lit. It's going to be a lit bag of chaos. So for anyone who has to deal with immigration court, my recommendation is make sure you have a great attorney. You don't need just a good attorney. You don't need someone who does it on the side. You don't want somebody who dabbles in immigration law. And you're certainly not going to listen to a notary public, one of these Spanish-speaking notaries who are like, oh, I can help you with this. Nonsense. It's complicated now. Don't do it. All right. So instead of hiring more judges, they're firing judges. And then their plan is to bring in, with a 2-week training, a slew of newly appointed immigration judges that come from the military. Now, that's even questionably legal, because you're taking a military officer and you're assigning them to a civil court. Immigration courts, it is an administrative court. Okay, so how can they work for the military and also work for the Department of Justice? They're gonna have 2 bosses. They're gonna be on 2 payrolls. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay, and I have not seen any legitimate legal justification for bringing them in that context. So that's something really important to know, is that in the immigration court system right now, what we're seeing is chaos. Cases are taking longer. A lot of people, when they show up, they're getting removed. Not everybody, but in cases where it can happen, it's happening. People are not getting bond nearly as often as they did before because of a recent court decision that said if you entered the country unlawfully, you don't qualify for bond. You join the ranks of those who must be detained mandatorily. So you're being held in jail while your case is getting figured out, which could take months or could even take a year or more. All right, so important things happening in the world of immigration. Wanted to give you that brief update on immigration judges and, what we can expect to see from here on out. We do know that ICE is hiring more attorneys. ICE is hiring attorneys to help prosecute more cases. But, it's quite a gamble that the Trump administration is playing right now on this, bringing in inexperienced, unknowledgeable military attorneys who are used to practicing under a completely different judicial system, under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and bringing them in, hoping that they can make their way through the Immigration and Nationality Act. All right. So I'm Attorney James Betzold. I am a great attorney. If you need an attorney to help you in your immigration case, we offer all sorts of services. We do family petitions. We do waivers. If you have been removed or have a removal order, we can help you with that. We can help you uncover and plan for your unification with your family here in the United States. If you have a spouse, child, parent, somebody who is able on the family side to petition for you, we are able to help you in many circumstances. If you've been the victim of certain crimes, we can also help you with that. If you've been the victim of domestic violence and the abuser is a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident, and they were your spouse, parent, child, contact us. Our number is 833-847-2335. Our website is visafeliz.com. Don't be fooled. This is a law firm. I am a lawyer. I am a lawyer. I am an immigration attorney with over 15 years of experience uniting families through immigration. Please, I see you all in the comments there. Give us a follow because we are back up again. We are releasing more and more of these lives. I want you to get notifications when we go live so that when there is important information, which tends to pop up without notice under the Trump administration, you can know what's going on and what's important in the world. Okay, so thank you for joining us today. Again, find us at visafeliz.com or give us a call, schedule an appointment. We can do a consultation with you. We will gather your information and you will get our professional opinion on the options that are available to you to normalize your status here in the United States. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day.